I am here to tell you why Panthers fans should not be worried about Bryce Young's interceptions during training camp. Let's go. So, to set the stage for what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to run a clip from a press conference earlier today with Dave Canales, who was addressing Bryce Young's interceptions in practice. We know he had two interceptions, one of them to defensive lineman Shy Tuttle, who made a great play. Panthers even posted it on social. I reposted it, made a great play. But there we have folks who are extremely worried. So one, there's people just worried about Bryce Young and his interceptions. Then there's folks who are worried about Dave Canales addressing the situation and being too optimistic in his response, crediting the defense and not really putting too much onus on the offense. Let's run the clip.
Dave, you sound very excited about the turnovers. How do you balance the turnovers being gotten by the defense versus being given away by the offense?
Yeah, I mean, it's us, right? So we're preaching it every day. You know, defensively, the stress is on attacking the football. The more opportunities we get to punch at the ball when the ball carriers, runners, whoever it is, has it, the higher percentages you have of getting one of those balls out. And then, of course, you know, just taking advantage of our interception opportunities. We've had more opportunities in this camp, and we just didn't come up with the catches. So glad to see guys finishing on that, you know, the intent of it and the focus. And on the flip side of it, offensively, it looked like a great day. We get into the last period of it. We throw an interception early in that part, and it makes everything feel horrible, but it's like nothing's wasted. It's a great day of work, but it just goes to show how critical the ball is and why we have to continue to heighten our awareness, our execution in those areas.
I mean, as a former wide receivers coach, how would you rate Shy Tuttle's hands?
Oh, beautiful. There was no second catch. It was a clean catch, and then he transitioned right away into a ball carrier. Guys got in front of him, and like great play from Shy.
So when I listen to this clip and I hear Dave Canales address the situation, here's the dynamic that has changed for the Carolina Panthers from last year to this year. Last year, you have Bryce Young, number one overall pick, coming out of college, shooting starter that was just the weight of the world was on him, whether it was fair or not. New offense, multiple voices. I don't want to beat a dead horse and say the same thing's over, but that was the case. And when you have the number one overall pick on your team, all eyes are going to be on you. Like every single thing is going to funnel up to that point where every storyline is going to come back to Bryce Young. Doesn't matter what's happening for the rest of the team at all. All on Bryce Young. How is Bryce Young developing? How did Bryce Young play? We know the Panthers only won the two games, but it was still a continuous cycle of Bryce Young, Bryce Young. This year, what I really like about Dave Canales and why I'm personally not worried about Bryce Young and his interceptions is Dave Canales has come in and kind of reset the culture, reset the pressure that is on Bryce Young, one, allowing him to make mistakes. It felt like last year, I think Frank even felt some of that pressure whenever Bryce Young did or did not perform. Like, oh gosh, yeah, Bryce Young did blah 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 this week, and you could just see Frank trying to defend Bryce. And in this case, this year we have an offensive minded coach who is the offensive coordinator. And so I think a lot of people feel like, hey, he should be really in there worrying that Bryce Young is throwing interceptions. But he has taken a bigger role in the team. And it helps that you have a defensive staff that remained intact, a defensive staff that's managed by Ejiro Evero, who just is fantastic. Top 5 in yards allowed. We know, though, that one of the weak points last year was points allowed, and that could be attributed to possession, as far as field position, time of possession, different factors, turnovers, points off turnovers. But when you look at the defensive side of the ball, one of the things or some of the things they did not do well, get pressures and get turnovers. And so you're coming into camp now and you have a defense that's getting turnovers, folks. Like what more do you want? You also have to remember they've been together now in training camp, and I know we can talk about mini camp, OTAs, but in training camp, almost 3 weeks. And I can tell you from playing football, and I mean, you can even start at the high school level. If you've ever run a scout team, which I know we're doing one-on-one, so it's a little bit differently because you're going to be running your defensive scheme against each other. But you eventually are going to just pick up and know what the offense is going to do, what they do on this play, what they do with this motion, this break, whatever it is. Like, you are naturally going to pick it up, and you will have in some cases, and I know the NFL is probably a little bit different, but you will have cases where coaches, I remember telling us when we played scout, hey, on this play, I know that you know that the ball is going here, or that you would shoot this gap and do this, this, and this. And again, I know in the NFL, not the exact same, but they're going to pick up on those tendency, folks, just from naturally being together, seeing the same thing for 3 weeks. And I know the playbook is developed and growing and scaling, but you got to remember that. And so for me, I want to see turnovers. Like, it would actually worry me if we made it this far along through training camp and we didn't have turnovers from Bryce Young, if we didn't have interceptions. I don't want fumbles, but I do want our defense popping the ball out. I do want our defense making plays, and I also want Bryce testing himself a little bit. Like, I think we get so because everything is available. One, you've got the side where the media is there. We've got all the media, fantastic people, reporters, writers, everyone. But then you layer in the fans. And you got the normal fans, and you have the content creator fans, which is the bucket I live in. And so things are recorded and videoed and magnified to the 10th degree. Imagine what this was like 20 years ago when you couldn't even do this, and who cared? There probably weren't stat lines for practice. I mean, I remember coming out of practice, the training camp last year, stat lines for Bryce Young's numbers during training camp. Like, that's what, because people soak and eat it up. Everybody wants a storyline. Everyone wants a bite. Got to have something to talk about. And it's much, much easier to magnify. Bryce Young threw 2 interceptions versus Bryce had 30 plus good passes throughout camp, whatever it is. So I'm not going to get too worked up. I want to see Bryce make mistakes. I don't want to see him make a lot of mistakes. I want him to learn from those mistakes. I don't want him rolling out, throwing across his body. But at the same time, I do have faith in Canales, and I like that Dave Canales is not really making Bryce bigger than the team, because you're not going to win a lot of football games if you make this about Bryce Young every time and you do not give credit to a defense that's doing their job. That's not going to set you up for success as a head coach. And I don't care if you're the offensive coordinator and you're an offensive minded coach and you want Bryce to blossom. Hey, you got to win some football games here, and you're going to have to turn the ball over. So let's take the wins as they come, folks, and let's not overreact. Anyways, folks, that's Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.